Hey team, welcome to our first little lecture video. This one's going to be about humanism and Petrarch, who is our father of humanism. So I want to quickly review humanism together. We know it as like the system or thought or action that human interests, values, and dignity predominate. But in terms of the Renaissance, we really just want to focus on the movement in literature. So we know it's about the human potential, about celebrating worldly achievements, um, and we need to focus on three different strands of humanism that were integrated into education and literature specifically. First, we have secularism. Humanists encourage humans to focus their attention on the here and now and less on the afterlife, which was the tendency during the Middle Ages. Humanism was secular in its outlook, but it was by no means anti religious. Many of the works of art that we've looked at produced during the Renaissance were for members of the church and depicted religious scenes. So we want to make sure we make that distinction. A few examples of humanism are like self-help manuals that came out, examples of like fame and this concept that evolved during the Renaissance. Our second strand is antiquity and the classics. Humanists studied and taught the humanities, the skill of disciplines like philology, the rhetoric, and by philology we mean the art or language, and rhetoric, the art of expression. And we also have revived a lot of works from ancient Greece and Rome. It was the center of many humanist outlook. As they collected manuscripts, visited monasteries, and excavated ancient ruins to find evidence to the ancient way of life. So the ancient Greek and Roman gods were often at the focal point of art during the Renaissance. And the humanists also mimicked ancient Greek and Roman architecture, like the columns, arches, and pillars that we see in a lot of what was built during the Renaissance. In addition, the humanists studied Latin and Greek, both of the ancient languages of the ancient civilizations. Some examples of antiquity in the classics that we've already looked at is The Birth of Venus by Botticelli and the Il Duomo of Florence. Our last strand is education. Knowledge was at the heart of the Renaissance. As we know, humanists aimed to provide society with intellectual tools that could be used to master everything from the globe, so cartography, to sound with musical notation, to abstract space, like three-dimensional perspectives in painting, to business and how the double-entry bookkeeping system evolved, and with politics. So, now we need to talk about the father of humanism, and his name is Francesco Petrarca, but we're just going to call him Petrarch. That's how he's commonly known. Father of humanism, he was an Italian poet who really revolutionized the sonnet through his works. His father was a lawyer, and when his father passed away, he left law to study and write about the Romans. He has written that he had this unquenchable thirst for literature that drove this passion of his. He was a deeply religious man who had this love of virtue. He also had this love interest who we only know as Laura, and this is how he referred to her, but we don't know who this Laura is or really a lot about the context. We just know about the emotion he felt towards this woman, and she inspired a lot of his works. He also advocated a lot for the continuity between classical and the Christian message, and he wrote about both of these by making a synthesis of the two different things that we think of as very conflicting ideas, but he looked at them as regarding the one as the rich promise and the other as its divine fulfillment. So he can claim to be the founder and great representative of this movement of humanism because of this continuity that he advocated for in his writings. All right, so our three takeaways from today's video. 1, humanism was a move in literature during the Renaissance. It has three strands: secularism, classics, education. Petrarch is the father of the Renaissance humanism. He was a poet. He wrote about the classics, and the Christian message and the continuity between the two messages. And he also wrote a lot about his love interest, Laura. And that concludes our video for today.